Andre for a little while now. What can he bring to you guys, and what have you maybe been impressed by in just this short amount of time?
Probably the biggest thing for me, I'm impressed with just his ability to pick up the offense. He's done a great job. Came in last week and wanted to do as much as he possibly could. We knew we had to keep a little bit of an eye on how much we could give him on somewhat of a short week. But he's been great. Love his attitude. Super smart. Really football understands. Obviously the football part on the field within the plays is easy for him because he's played so much. Just taking what we do and implementing it into that is where I think he's excelled.
Now, what challenges do you feel like you have with Vita Vea in the run game?
Well, he's a heck of a football player, man. Just can play, the A gap and B gap at the same time. Physically strong. Pass game when he's there and he gets his hands on you, it's going to be tough to get away. So just have a lot of he puts stress on you as an offensive line. We have a lot of faith in our guys, but he's a hell of a player.
Matt, what stands out about your execution on third downs against the Raiders?
Probably the biggest thing is guys were where they needed to be, and then Pat used his legs. If conceptually, if something wasn't there, he's able to use his legs as a weapon. So I want to, the guys have been great with that. I try to keep things as simple as possible so they can play fast, but Pat's legs have certainly been a part of it.
There's been 3 straight games of 20-plus carries for Kareem. I guess how much of that is by design based on personnel or what Pat's seeing, what the defense is giving you in a sense?
There's probably a lot of it with design. Kareem's been doing this for a long time. I know we kind of started off this year with the whole shot thing and Kelsey not getting open and different ways of trying to figure out the identity of this offense. I think we're sort of coming into one here with the amount of carries that he's getting. There's not necessarily a ton of explosives per se, but one thing it's doing is it's allowing us to stay ahead of the sticks on third down, to his point. We're able to be efficient and not getting a third and long. I think it all kind of ties together. We had a couple long drives last week with a 19-play and a 13-play, so it's been good for us.
Now, are you able to separate how much of your running game is due to what he's doing, his specific skill set, and how much of it is everybody else around him?
I don't know if we've gotten too far into that as far as what the separation is of the two. I mean, he's a physical ball carrier that does not lose yards when he touches the football. I mean, he's always gaining yards. So instead of 2nd and 11, and we talked about it last week, we say you ask for 4, he gets you 5. You know that you're going to get positive yards with Kareem, and I think then what we want to do is make sure we're doing what he does well. And then let's look at the offensive line too. Like what are those guys on the offensive line? What do they do well? And I think we found some things that we like without getting into specifics schematically, and we want to just keep kind of rolling with that.
Hey Matt, Pat said yesterday, statistically he's not where he normally is, but he said when you win, it's okay. I just wonder if you've seen things from him kind of behind the scenes during games where maybe he's doing team first things, even if it's not helping his particular stats.
Sure. I would say this to the stats and the first of all, we all know winning is most important. We all get that. We want to be able to put up points, protect the football. Those are like the bigger goals. Pat never once, even when he's throwing 50 touchdowns a season, never talked about it. It doesn't get talked about now statistically. I do understand, and we all understand the importance of being able to have the fireworks and the big plays and et cetera. We want that. But right now there's a little bit of a recipe on how things are going, and we're winning. But at the same time, we want to lock in on ball security, protecting the football. We got a phenomenal defense, being great in the red zone situationally, third down. And then for him specifically, I think we probably focus in a little bit more on his technique, whether it's footwork, timing, accuracy, all that goes together. Now, we go out now and just try to put up points, and I think when you do that and you keep winning, now when you win and all those scoring and great defense comes together, it's magical. So we want to try to get to that.
How fun is that for you guys to have, like, Kelsey seems to be the same way. He had a lot of catches last week, but winning, legacy, these are the things these guys talk about. You've been around the league for a long time. That's not always the case with some players. Some players are three stats, giving all this. How good is that for you guys to have those veteran guys show that attitude to everyone else?
Refreshing, and I think it goes to show, again, it starts at the top with Coach Reed and Brett Veach, the type of players you bring in. Now, Pat and Kels have been here a long time. What happens is other guys see that, And when you see that and you feel that and you live it on the sideline when maybe there's not a great fantasy number game for somebody, but we win, in the locker room, everybody's celebrating the same way. They're not pouting because we won and I had one catch for 12 yards. We don't have that on this team. As a coach, I can't tell you how refreshing that is. And again, it starts with those guys. They understand what's most important, and they're looking for they want the team rings and trophies because that's how people remember you. They don't remember the fantasy numbers, when you don't win, honestly. What's important to them is winning football games and winning trophies and championships and rings.
Last three, we're going to go Vahe, Pete, and then Matt.
Matt, you guys always have to adapt during the season to whatever you set out to do and just the flux of the game. How, I don't know if extreme is the right word, but how pronounced has that been this season in terms of where you started in camp, what you thought the points of emphasis would be versus what you've been doing now?
Yeah, it's probably carried on. I mean, some of the injuries are a part of that, but you look across the league right now, and every team's kind of going through that. So how do you adjust to that? And our guys have had the right mindset of being able to stay prepared. I think what's very important in this process is because of these injuries and guys are seeing it, or maybe there's somebody that doesn't get called up that maybe thought they would. Stay prepared because your time will come. And there's just a positive environment in our building, and it's always been that way. And so when you look at, now winning helps, that's great. But when you're winning and you're finding different ways to win in all three phases, it makes things a lot easier. Practices are fast, they're great, the tempo's good. Schematically for us, it's, there's going to be adjustments. But for us, I think we're where we want to be. We'd like to maybe have a few more explosives here or there, but as long as we're winning, we just want to make sure that doesn't deodorize what we can be better at.
You mentioned the fireworks and the explosives. How much do you think there could be a correlation between DeAndre's impact and involvement and what Xavier Worthy, that might mean for Worthy and his potential?
I think it all works together. If you have, just deep threat guys, then teams know that. If you have guys that are just underneath, teams know that. So being able to kind of do different things with those guys, it allows us to be more flexible conceptually in what we do. And then just trying to figure out each week. These defenses right now, I think we're at the peak level right now of these defensive schemes and coordinators or what they're doing. We're going to see one this weekend with Coach Todd Bowles. My dad coached him in high school. I know him well, and I coached with him in Philadelphia. His schemes are phenomenal. And no matter what you hear about numbers-wise with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense, it's a good defense that does great stuff. And so we just got to be prepared for this week against the Bucs and worry about how that happens. And I think that's probably our biggest challenge.
Last one, Matt.
Yesterday, Coach mentioned sticking with Wanye for now at the left tackle spot. In like the last 5-6 weeks, what have you seen from Kingsley as far as how he's progressing, coming along? And, is there a point that you could see going back to Kingsley at some point this season?
Well, I'll leave that last part up to Coach. I'll be a part of that, but leave that up to him, that decision-wise. I think Wanye has it's stood. Obviously, there's a couple penalties here or there that he had last week, and we know that. He knows that. Kingsley has been great in practice, which is really what he needs to do right now is be great when he's running, look team or getting any first-team reps with us. Be solid there. Be strong, and then they should continue to push each other and be great. And so I think it's for us just understanding who they are, what they do, how they go about it, and we have full faith in both of them.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep, no problem. See you.
That's it. Check my watch. Even though it's 7 minutes fast, I got it right. All right, here we go. Another challenge. I keep waiting for a game when I put the film on and it's not a top offense we're playing. But these guys are good. I'm really impressed with the three backs. The quarterback's playing really good. I know all about the injuries at wideout, but I think all of a sudden what happened is they got a lot more speed out there with some of these young guys. So this will be a challenge. And with that, I'll open it up.
Generally speaking, just the crew that is rotating, replacing Jalen, how do you feel about that position right now?
Yeah, well, we had, so Josh and Nazi both went in there. We'll find out where we are with Nazi as the week goes on. You know, I thought there were some really good downs. I thought Nazi tackled well a couple times. And then Josh had to go in there. We had the one penalty, so we'd like to get rid of that. But I think both those guys could probably play better, and I think they'd tell you that. Yeah.
Steve, what kind of role do you see for Uche?
Yeah, Josh.
Sunday and then
Going beyond. I'm not sure what will happen this Sunday. I mean, it's quick. But Joe and Terry are doing the best they can to get him up to date on the things we're doing. We just went through a walkthrough there, and he got involved in it, so that's good. We'll see where we're at. But, hopefully we get some edge rush out of him. I know he's a good football player, heard a lot of good things about him, all the research we did. Mike Dana played with him. I remember talking to Mike about him as a teammate and everything, came back positive. So, keep our fingers crossed and be hopeful.
have you had a guy with that kind of skill set since you've been here? Is there a comparison you can?
I'm not sure I have a real good beat on the exact skill set. I mean, I know what I see, right? So maybe after I have a little feel for it, but he's built like all those good football players up there in New England, and he was well coached. Bill having him for those number of years, so I think that's a plus. And then we'll just see what kind of talents we can use in him and mix him in with the rest of the guys.
How have you felt about your pass rush when you're not blitzing up to this point?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we know what Chris gives us, and then I thought George came on a little bit last week. I mean, Turk's been really good inside. I think he's given us some really, and again, it's you guys know how I am. It's not all about sacks. It's how we affect the quarterback, whether it's pushing a lineman into him and getting him off the spot, whether it's knocking a ball down or getting a hit and not necessarily a sack. So I think we'd all like to be a little bit better in a lot of areas. That might be one of them, but hopefully we do that. Hopefully we're going to do that.
Steve, your run game or run defense has been good. I mean, how much do you feel like your edges have factored into that aspect?
Yeah, guys on the edge like the DNs we're talking about, Leo. And our linebackers have done a really good job at triggering real quick in the run game. It begins up front with our guys, but when your linebackers can trigger like that, you can get a double team off a D lineman quicker, and then they become more effective. And I think our secondary, Dave and Donald do a great job with those guys. I think we have a secondary that's willing to tackle in the run game and get involved, and we're preaching it all the time, and they've bought in. I was just talking to the production team there before I came in, and they asked about that same thing with how our DBs play. And I think some of that was established. I go back to, Tyrann Mathieu when he first got here, LJ, in the way LJ played physically. And I think all the guys that come in and you see that, sometimes players in this league don't listen to coaches as much as they would just observe what the guys in front of them are doing. And I think having guys like that here prior has helped us become that way on the back end.
Couple more.
Steve, what challenges do you think a tight end like K-Dog presents?
Yeah, just like last week. I mean, I thought last week we had a challenge with that tight end. It'll be the same this week. When you put the tape on of last week's game, when they now don't have the two receivers, I think his targets and ticks went up, so we'll be aware of that. But I think anytime you get that kind of a talented tight end, it presents some problems.
Baker Mayfield, you mentioned him a little while ago. What have you seen from him this year? He just
Yeah.
seems, wherever he ends up, he seems to play
It's like
well.
he's perfect in the system. I think they're doing great things with the guys they got. I see a guy that's getting the ball out really quick and on time. I see a guy that before the ball is snapped, I think he realizes what he has, and he knows right where he's going with the ball. Like, I don't see a lot of off schedule, I can't go there, I got to get there. And we know he's athletic enough to do that. But I think he's just been really efficient, especially on first and second down. And they're number one on third down, by the way. So he's doing something right there, too. But I just think he's been really, really efficient in the pass game on first and second down.
Nate?
Steve, Justin Rick had the quad injury during training camp. Just Anything that you've noticed from him as the season's progressed? You guys
Justin
are using,
Reed?
Yeah, you guys are also using him quite a bit, both in the box and at free safety.
No, he's gotten better and better. What I always see with him is how he relates with all the other guys back there. I think he's a great leader. I mean, he does things out of this building that a lot of us don't see for the camaraderie of the back end guys in a real. The real like I hear, because it comes back. Yeah, Justin did this for those guys last night, or they had this, or whatever. And I think that's great. Not everybody does that. That's because he's unselfish and he cares about the team and the guys he plays with. And he's been on the field. He's been one of our aggressive guys. When I was talking about I think he heads that up, and he was here with LJ, and he was like that before he got here. So he just kind of carried it in here as well.
We'll go last two here.
Steve, as you went back in the film and rewatched the goal line stand with the guys, like what kind of things were you pointing out?
Yeah, 11 guys that were all jacked up to keep them out of the end zone. That was pretty. It started up front, and then the linebackers, and then every DB was involved. I mean, every white jersey. That was gutty. I was proud of those guys when they did that.
What's the process for you when you're making a trade on defense at this point in the year? When do you get involved as far as whether it's giving your opinion on it, watching film?
Yeah. Well, Brett's great in that he's so collaborative. Sometimes it's rare in these kind of businesses, and he's always bouncing things off. Like that wasn't the only name he's come in and then it may be somebody we as coaches know about or don't know about if we need to learn a little bit more. You try to throw some tape on. And what Brett's great at is he gives us enough of a heads up that we got some time to kind of look at it and research. And then he kind of takes it from there, him and Coach Reed. And, listen, I think he's great. He's done a great job here. And hopefully this move we made here we'll all be happy about and give us a little extra. Right? We'll see.
Thanks, Coach.
Good? Yeah.
And we'll have Daly or Cullen.
See everybody. Beautiful day here, getting ready for a really good practice for Tampa Bay on Monday night. And with that, I'll leave it up to you guys for the questions.
So your guys' run defense has been really good this year. When you look back at the offseason, was that something you guys talked a lot about trying to improve in?
Yeah, I mean, Coach Spags has always talked about improving the run defense. And really, when we talked about it, it was really from the end of the Super Bowl on. And I thought, as the playoffs progressed last year, we did a good job with that, but we wanted to come out of the gates like that. But really, when you're stopping the run, it takes all 11, and I think guys are buying in. We're tackling well. Guys are playing technique. Whatever Coach Spags calls, the guys are executing it to the best of their ability, and we just got to keep that going.
What's your first impressions and thoughts on Joshua Uche?
Oh, I've studied Josh when he was at Michigan and watched him play at New England, but he's been a good addition that Brett Veach and his staff and Coach Reed brought to the group. So he's been working hard and doing everything he can, and excited to have him in the group.
He seemed very excited when we talked to him yesterday about coming to this place where you guys have had so much success. When someone comes in the middle of the season, is that the feeling you get from them that like this is a special place and they're, maybe you don't want to be traded because you were where you were, but if you come in here, give them a little extra energy?
Well, I would think, I know when I came, I had a little extra energy, but, when you come to a place like this, from our owner to Coach Reed, Brett Veach, Spags, Nags and Coach Tobe, it's an unbelievable environment, and the record speaks for itself. So when you come here, maybe it's a breath of fresh air from where you've been, I don't know, and it's an opportunity with a guy like Pat Mahomes as your quarterback and Spags as your defensive coordinator, whatever it may be. And so I think he's excited to have an opportunity to play with a guy like Chris Jones in the room, Mike Dana, who was his college teammate, and just the room that we have, and obviously playing for Coach Spags.
You mentioned a couple of times Chris Jones, problem for everyone who they have to try to block him. He maybe doesn't have all the sacks that he might want to have, even though he told us he doesn't care about personal numbers. We know he does a little bit. When you grade him out, with your internal grading, how good has he been for you guys this year?
Oh, he's been as disruptive as he's ever been. I mean, he's not only playing the pass really well, but he's really physical inside in the run game and taking up 2, sometimes 3 blockers. But he's really having a fantastic year.
How impressive have you been with the depth behind Chris inside, like the Turks and Mike Pennell and that group?
Oh, I mean, that whole group. When you look at Turk, where he's come from, I mean, he's doing a great job. Mike Pennell, Derek Noddy, Marlon, who we got from Philadelphia. I mean, we have a really deep group, and the guys are really working hard. And and Coach Spags wants guys rolling. And when guys are in there, they're starters. And I've been impressed with the way the guys have been playing.
Nate, and then we'll do a couple more.
Joe, how much of the week is about you and Chris discussing where he might move in certain matchups to maybe get a one-on-one? And I guess what's it like for you to watch him go through the game and sort of try to find his one-on-ones if he's switching positions right before, the ball is snapped, essentially?
There are certain things, like I said, the chess match, and Coach Spags does a great job, hey, where do you want to put him? What do you want to do? This is where we can put him. So we decide all that. But it's really an opportunity. He has an opportunity to win on certain plays, all 5 spots on the line of scrimmage. And there are certain ones where he's delegated to a spot on the line of scrimmage. So, I mean, obvious that's decided as you go through the week, see the opponent that you're playing and maybe who would try to exploit. But it's a weekly deal.
Who does that remind you most of, whether it's someone you've coached previously in your career, or just watching other guys throughout the league who have that amount of flexibility, freedom, and obviously some responsibility to it?
Well, when you look at it, it's within the scheme, and Coach Spags does, like I said, a great job with that. And Chris is good a defensive player. I know I'm being biased in the league, but that I've coached some good ones, and he has that unique ability to go outside and beat a tackle, or stay inside and beat a guard. Not many can do that. You have some ends that can do that, but not many true defensive tackles, can go outside and beat an offensive tackle.
Matt?
What's kind of your role in a timeline when you're making an in-season trade, as far as, when Brett may bring up a name and talk to you and you can kind of contribute?
No, I think when you look at it, and not necessarily Josh, but other guys, but you might have done them in the past. You might have did them in the off season as you're attacking free agency, so you have a familiarity with the player. But Brett does a great job. He'll go to, if he's looking at a guy, Coach Spags or the position coach, and get your opinion. And he does a great job of that.
Thanks, Coach.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Everybody.
When you guys are on the sideline and there was a quick change, like in the Raiders game where the ball gets hit and you guys get down there and it's going to be kind of a goal line situation. What's that energy like? And your defense seems to kind of relish those opportunities. What's it like over there? Take us inside a little bit.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. That's not an experience that you want or you're hoping for, obviously. But it is one that you got to be prepared for. Obviously, it's going to happen from time to time. What's really impressive with this current group that we've got, it's a really resilient group in terms of their mentality. And they don't flinch. Like, I've been on teams and I've been on sidelines where there's bitching, complaining, guys, here we go again, eye roll, whatever the case may be. You get none of that out of this group. You feel the urgency of the moment, but I think you feel them with a resolve and a bit of an attitude that they relish the challenge, so to speak. You don't want too many of them, obviously, but it's interesting that you asked that question because I've noticed that on multiple occasions when that's happened this year. Not all of them we've been successful on, but I certainly appreciate the way they approach it.
When you are successful, what's that feel like too?
Oh, it's a great, I mean, that's a euphoric feeling. That's why you play the game. That's why you do the work we do day in and day out, is to play at your best in those most critical moments of the game, you know? So when you accomplish that, it's pretty awesome.
From a football IQ standpoint, with Nick Bolton, just how important is he behind the scenes and really, on the field to every part of your defense?
I mean, he does a great job there. And you could go example after example in terms of what he does on the field, the communication, not only in the huddle, but making checks and adjustments as the offense gets to the line of scrimmage, communicating some of the pre-snap ID stuff and awareness stuff that he sees. But I appreciate it even on a day-to-day basis in the meeting rooms where, we've got an adjustment, we've got a game plan situation, and he'll ask, the pertinent questions that maybe we didn't cover or maybe we didn't even think of at times, just to make sure that we got everything on the same page, which it's valuable in a lot of different ways.
What's it been like as a coach watching Leo develop the last 3 years? And it seems like he's just been improving year by year, and now is really kind of a pretty versatile guy too.
Yeah, he has improved, and I would say his role has expanded based on his ability and his performance on the field, to be quite honest. He does a lot of things really well. I think we've done a better job this year identifying that skill set and putting him in those positions more often. And he's done a really good job when we put him in those positions. It's been a lot of fun. And I can't say that I'm surprised, to be honest, with the way that he works and kind of what we saw with him even coming out in the draft process. But it's always fun to see that actually develop. It doesn't always, in those situations. And, it's really important to him, and it's been fun to watch him have success and expand that role, like you mentioned. And that's been valuable for us as a team, for sure.
Similar thought on Drew. What do you see that we don't see that's on the stat sheet with him this year?
Honestly, you could say this about all of those guys, not just those three, but that entire group in that room. They are great people that have high football IQ, and Drew certainly falls into that category. Again, is diverse. He's able to do multiple things. I will say, I think it has helped Drew this year, second year in the system, and we've been able to kind of let him play at one position at this point, or not one position, but not ask him to do multiple roles. And he's capable of doing that. And if we have, moving forward, he may end up needing to do that based on injuries or what have you. But it's been valuable for him to kind of get his feet in that same position and get the cumulative reps there. I think we're seeing some of the benefit of that, and he's playing really fast and really well as a result.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thanks, Coach.
And ladies.
A couple weeks ago, we had a couple rookies get their first picks, right? That's fun. Yeah. Next week, I think Chris got a penalty. What's that like coaching those guys through that high stuff and then the low stuff?
Same way that we raise our children. You have the highs and lows, and sometimes they will disappoint you, and it's disappointing to see the penalties. But yet you're so happy for the young men when they have success and with the interceptions. And so just trying to help them to just understand that you have to just play within the framework of the defense and what's called for you to do as far as the technique. But some of the plays that happen out on the field, they can be corrected. And so we have to correct them and make sure that they understand a better way to do it the next time.
In training camp, Josh Williams just talked about being a little bit more consistent in good plays and bad plays. From your standpoint, how is he coming along, especially now when he may have to play a bit more?
Yeah, you know, the one thing that happened with Josh when Jalen was playing, Watson was playing a lot, I told Josh to stay ready. And so your time is going to come. And sure enough, it came in a way that we unexpected it to come. But Josh is one of those young men who he works better when you give him more reps in practice, probably like 90% of our locker room. Once you give them more reps and they get more comfortable, they can go out and execute what we're asking them to do. And so, but I think what's going to happen with Josh, because he's played a lot of football. You guys remember when he went in the game for L.J. Snead, Cincinnati game, after, 4 or 5 plays. And the kid continued to play well the rest of the Super Bowl run. So 2 years of experience, postseason, the kid has been in there, so I'm not going to skip a beat. I trust him, and I believe that he's going to do well.
Dave, what were you seeing from Chris Rowland-Wallace in practice that allowed you to enhance his role?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Chris does is you're able to tell Chris verbally what you want without necessarily having to walk through it, and he can compute it and understand and go out and perform it. And so when you find a young man who's cerebral like that, who's able to understand it not only just through walkthroughs or through reps in practice, you want to try to put that guy out on the field, because he's going to be able to see things. He's going to play with more instincts versus a guy that you're having to explain every single role, every single step. You know, they're not going to be your more instinctive guys. And so Roland is a very instinctive young man, and happy to have him.
Dave, was there a moment with him when you first got here, OTAs or camp or whenever, that you said, okay, he's not maybe our normal undrafted guy coming in here?
Yep, sure did. So when he came in, and great question, when he came in and we had him at the nickel spot / corner, and then when we moved him to the safety position, and when he had to learn the free, the strong, and the nickel, and he did it without blinking an eye, and it's one of those situations that it's just uncommon. You know, Shamari Connors had to do a little bit of nickel and safety. But when you're having to do safety, nickel, and learn corner, and that's what that young man did for us, and he was able to pick up the defense. And so learning it from the safety perspective, which I call those guys the quarterback of the defense, then down to the nickel perspective, which is a starter in the NFL, as we know, and then, of course, going out to the corners, not trying to slate them. But the young man was able to pick up and understand the techniques that we were asking him to perform. And as he was doing that, we just saw again instinctively he was making plays within the defense, playing with proper leverage, which helped us out.
Last one, anyone?
Yeah. Dave, when you pump the Bucs passing offense on there on the tape, what do you see? What stands out about them?
I see a quarterback who is quick in his decision. He knows exactly where he wants to go with the ball. And so when you look at their offense, I mean, this is the number 1 third down team in the league. And that's what I stood up in front of the defense today, and I talked to everyone about that. This team is spearheaded by their quarterback, and the quarterback does a good job of getting them in and out of plays. And so, and with his legs, being able to extend plays. And so really the offensive scheme, I think the offensive coordinator has done a great job of putting them in motions and adjustments that defense will have to make on the sideline, which can be confusing sometimes. And so, but if you can try to simplify it, if they're doing a lot, just try to simplify what you do, and hopefully, you know, guys can play faster.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, thank you. Playoff game tonight. I'm just saying. St. James. St. James.
Andy, you've been working with Wanya Morris there. Just, you know, what are the conversations like as you review film especially after a game like last week, you try to just make sure he improves and gets confidence in the ability to play at his position?
You know, we keep it pretty simple in the room and really break it down. So when I'll give them an overall impression of the game, certainly, but mostly as we're going through the tape, each play will point out, hey, this is what you did well, and on a play, well, hey, what would you like to do differently here? Or if we get stuck there, then of course I'm going to say, well, remember what we drilled last week, we want to work on this. So it's kind of just play by play by play, and then we get a general impression.
How has he responded? I mean, I know it's tough. Like when you get a flag on you, everyone's looking at you. You got a few flags last week. How's he responded this week and throughout the game last week?
Oh, he's been a pro. He's responded very well. He takes coaching well, cares about his craft, works at it every day. Yeah, I'm pleased with that.
Andy, when you have college players come in, probably over the past decade, is there kind of a common theme about what you're trying to fix, maybe bad habit-wise, so they can succeed in the NFL?
No, I don't think I would say there's a common theme. I think every guy's different. If there was a common theme, I would say that offensive line play is difficult, and some guys are able to make it look easy. The vast majority of guys, it takes time. I know as a young player, I didn't feel like I became as good as I wanted to be. I never became as good as I wanted to be, but it took me 6-7 years before I really felt like I was playing at a high level. And hey, we don't often have 6 or 7 years in this, especially in this day and age, or certainly in this profession. But it takes time to develop those skills.
We're about halfway through the year. When it comes to Kingsley, you had to go down early. Just how has he responded? And then behind the scenes and at practice, how have you seen him grow as the weeks have carried along?
Yep. I've been pleased with Kingsley. I mean, he's been a good worker. He's a young player, and he's got tons of things to improve upon. But in terms of how he's responded, I mean, he's a positive guy in our room, takes coaching well. I feel like he works hard every day, and so I've been pleased with that. And I've been seeing some improvement. And so, we'll keep at it every day. And both he and Wanya, I mean, they're young players that are ascending, and they will push each other.
The last couple of weeks, Jawan's had a couple of really clean games and had obviously a big game against Max Crosby. What have you kind of seen with him of late that's maybe been a little bit different than before the bye week?
Well, if we just went to this most recent game, I thought that was one of his better finish days. Probably, in many ways, his best game as a Chief because, as you say, he was clean in terms of penalties. But the thing I was most impressed about, besides doing a nice job against an elite pass rusher, an elite football player, was his compete to finish, both run and pass.
A few more. Okay. All right.
All right, thanks.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Howdy. Good.
How many miles in the time do you get in running?
Just the loop. I'm not sure exactly how far it is, but it's usually 20 minutes. So we're staying on schedule today.
What has DeAndre Hopkins brought to you guys in this short amount of time? What have you seen from him?
Yeah, just veteran intensity. He wants to come in and do what he's done his whole career. So he puts a lot of pressure on himself. Just that intensity. It's almost that excitement level when training camp first starts and the guys are new to the system and really eager to learn. He's brought that. It's kind of a rebirth for everybody being around him. Just that intensity. And then obviously his track record on the field and what he's done in the past, the guys look up to him and are able to go talk to him. So it's been great just seeing that.
How challenging has the season been, just considering the offense was going to maybe look one way with Rice and Brown, and then you obviously face some adversity there. Just how do you handle some of the changes on the fly?
Yeah, I think it's a similar challenge every year, just trying to move the ball and score points against the defenses, and then keep progressing as an offense and growing each of the guys. So early in the season, when you kind of have visions for growing Rasheed and Hollywood and how they can kind of flourish in this offense and then you lose them, it just kind of shifts to the next guy up. And so I don't know, it's been like a drastic change for how we operate, but just within, all right, these are the guys that we have now, how can we best utilize them and try to score points? That's really been the main focus.
So what is that process like as coaches? Like, do you look at who you're going to have available for a week, if it's different from the last week, and play selection and stuff that gets inserted? Like, what's just that process like?
Yeah, it's. I think we start with what are the guys best at, and so you try to focus in either with what they've shown on film in the past or what we know them to be able to do, and then within that, how can we best utilize what they're best at against what the defense presents. And so we're always trying within each week, all right, here are our guys, here's what they're best at. Let's start putting them into spots. You can't run necessarily the same play for each guy against the same defense, so there's going to be complementary roles. So it's just like, all right, if he's got X amount of routes that he's good at that'll work, what else can we give the next guy that'll also work, and what complementary ways can we fit people in? So it's just, in that sense, a little bit of a puzzle of just trying to grow the guys with the stuff they're good at, and then also hopefully that'll work that week against the defense.
Joe, this was about the point of the season last year where Rasheed really started picking up his game. Are you seeing any signs from Xavier Worthy that maybe he's going to be able to make a similar kind of jump in his rookie year?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. That's a good observation. Regardless, I think, of what some of the stats say, last year with Rasheed especially, each week he was growing and becoming more and more comfortable in both what we were doing and how it was best for him to be able to accomplish that. And very similar with Xavier, he comes in and you want to focus on what he's good at, and then you want to give him complementary things, and he's getting more and more comfortable in kind of those routes or maneuvers against defenses that he maybe wasn't as comfortable with early in the season. And so that doesn't always show up on the stat sheet, but as the season goes, that comfort level starts to show up with him winning routes and catching passes.
Are there plays you can point to as sort of evidence of that?
There are routes. Yeah, I mean, I wish we could go on the clicker and I'd show you all of them. Yeah, nice. We could be here all day. Yeah, there are where it's really savvy, where he's setting a guy up, and when he's utilizing his speed, not just to run by somebody and score a deep touchdown, but also to stop and to change direction, and then to maneuver how defenses are playing him underneath, where previously he might have ran into some traffic or got into a jam one way. He's maneuvering, he's recognizing that stuff, he's getting clean releases. And so all of that stuff, very similar to what you said, especially week 8, I think we got to start to continue to grow him with routes outside his comfort level. And then that will be able to get him back to the stuff that he's really good at, given the defense's different looks. And that's kind of what we did with Rasheed all of last year. It was continuing to give him the stuff he was great at, and then challenging him and pushing the limits so that the defenses couldn't just sit on one or two things, and that's happening with Xavier as well.
Joe, with DeAndre and Juju, what type of benefit can they give Xavier with their ability to recognize and read defenses?
Yeah, the benefit, you can't put a number or a limit on it. It's like, what's the best word? I mean, it's limitless. It's awesome. What we say and how the route is drawn on the paper is one thing. The experiences that they have, especially DeAndre, I mean, I'm really in just the listening mode with him. Everybody's pouring into him how we do things, what we do. Here's what you got to know for the game. And I'm really listening to how he does what he does and how defenses have played him over the years. And Xavier, Juju, all our young guys listen to that as well. It's one thing to run a slant route, but when you're DeAndre and you've run a million of them and the guy's playing inside leverage, it's another thing to set him up and win on that. So those little nuances that the veterans have from having done it for so long, it's one thing for the coaches to say it, and then it just resonates, 10 times when they hear it from somebody they've looked up to, especially generationally like that.
That's it. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Chris, with Coach Spags, is there one thing that was eye-opening when you first got his defense, or something that was different that he does defensively that you've never seen or done before?
Yeah, he blitz a lot, more than I've ever seen. But yeah, that's about it. He don't mind sitting corners, nickels, safeties, linebackers on a blitz.
First impressions, first thoughts of your new teammate with Joshua?
I haven't been able to be on the field with him yet, as in a live practice, so get to figure it out today. Watch film on him. He's fast, good get off. I think he'll add very good value to this defensive line, and hopefully get us more sacks. You know, that's always a plus, and help us affect the quarterback.
When you get a new player in like that, how do you like to maybe welcome them to the team in your own way?
There's no certain way, just hey, hi, how are you? Fucking 30 years old, what you want me to do? Give him a high five. Hey, how are you? You know.
When you see you guys come in during the year, he seems pretty excited to be here, obviously. Coming with another team, you come to a team that's undefeated, with a lot of great defensive players on it. Do you feel that kind of energy when guys get in the room, how excited they are to be a Chief?
I think it's a culture difference, you know what I mean? This culture here is fun, goofy, personality-wise. We got a lot of characters in the defensive line room, so it's a very intriguing group. I think it's fun to be around, but we also work hard, so I think he was able to notice that from his time being here and make him excited to come to work.
Chris, you mentioned that you watched film of him. Was that something you did on your own? Is that something that popped up in the meeting room or something?
I think a little bit of both. You know, to see who we're getting, see what he like to do. How can I rush off of him? You know what I mean? Because you know he has the possibility of playing this upcoming week. So I think it's best to see what he's good at and see what I can do off of that.
Chris, this team's been top 2 in run defense. Just what's been the key to success of that as your halfway point of the season here?
First off, don't pay attention to PFF. Numbers are false. Those are college kids grading. I love Chris Collinsworth, but if you're going to get that, get professionals in there. I love you. Numbers are terrible. But most importantly, I think it's more so us buying in as a group to make sure we stop the run as a whole.
Chris, you got a national TV appearance coming up here pretty soon. What was your motivation for doing that?
What are you talking about, the full? Look at you. Oh, yeah, it was bring awareness to cancer and making sure people are aware of the effect that cancer has on individuals and their lives. I was affected by cancer, my high school basketball coach, and for me it was a great cause, so I went full Monty.
How much do you enjoy doing it?
It was amazing, man. I mean, it's not like the world haven't seen me full Monty before. So I think it was it's good for what it was good for, right?
Chris,
Last one,
you guys
anyone?
get a quick change last week against the Raiders. You guys got to jump out there on the field and be ready to go. Just take us through the mindset of going out there, and then when you have success, and stop them on that fourth down play. What can that do for a team?
I think it was a momentum shift because they had made it down there out the change, the interception, and then make it in their end zone, whatever red zone, and for us to limit them to no points. You know, usually they'd be limited to 3 points, which is also a bigger gain, but we was able to limit them to no points. I think it was a momentum shift for us as a team, and Patrick and the offense went down there and did their thing.
What's it like in the huddle when you guys, I mean, every play, I guess, is important, right? But when you're down there like that, is there a little more intensity in the defensive huddle when you get ready for that kind of first down, second down, third down, fourth down, right there with your back against the goal line?
Absolutely, because you know it might be 4 down plus territory, and you know they're right there. So you know you're going to need your best efforts. You're going to need everybody to play fundamentally sound, and you're going to have to be very physical. And we knew they wanted to run the ball punch it in. You know, it's the Raiders' way. So we prepared for it well throughout the week, and we was able to shut it down.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, guys.
everyone.